What's up, folks? DC here, welcoming you back to another episode of Wolf Lodge. On this episode, we start preparing for winter. Alright guys, it's November, and that primarily means one thing. It's time for me to head back to my full-time job. Believe it or not, being up here all summer long, building, working, playing, and having fun does not pay the bills. But what is nice is my job is a seasonal one, which allows me to work, make money all winter long, and then take my summers off to do this. For the past 13 years, I've worked at a local ski resort as a snowcat operator. For those of you who are familiar with ski resort operations, you probably know what a snowcat is. For those of you who don't, a snowcat is a large tracked machine that creates a nice smooth surface for skiers and snowboarders to enjoy. If you're interested more about that, I filmed what I do, my job, for an entire season, made a short film. It's a pretty beautiful film, worth checking out. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. The point being is that this might be the last episode for a little while. To get the ski resort open, it's pretty labor intensive. I work 7 days a week, sometimes 16-hour shifts, do what needs to get done to open the resort, which we have a deadline of Thanksgiving. And then once the resort is open, my workload starts to settle down. I can start taking weekends and then start coming back up here. And when I start coming up here in another month or so, things are going to look a lot different. There's going to be a ton more snow. I know that lumber mill is going to be buried, rendering that thing useless. The point being is that construction is going to come to a halt up here. But I still want to continue to put out a weekly episode when I start coming back up here. The feeling of those episodes are going to change from building and constructing to a weekly ski and snowboard edit up here. One of the main reasons for building this structure is to be up here in the wintertime and enjoy winter sports. So my idea is to come up here on a weekly basis with a group of friends, do an overnighter up here, and film some skiing and snowboarding. So the exciting news is that the episodes will continue this winter. So with all that being said, today and tomorrow are going to be my last days up here for about a month. So I need to get this place ready for that. Okay, a list of things that I want to accomplish today and tomorrow in preparation for me not being back out here in a while. First, I want to get back up into this loft, put a second coat of oil on these loft floorboards. And then once that coat is dry, this loft will be finished. And when we start coming back out here, we can start enjoying this space. The second thing that I want to do is protect the lumber mill. If you remember back to episode 2, you remember that thing was under 6 feet of snow last spring. When I dug it, I was lucky to find that there was no damage. Going forward in the future winters, I don't want to rely on luck. I want to come up with some idea to protect that thing from the snow load. The third thing that I want to try to accomplish is foam each one of these windows. It should have been done a long time ago, but I've just been putting it off. Foaming between the wood framing and the window framing, each one of these gaps. There's 15 windows, so there's a lot of work there to be done. But once that is done, it's going to add to this structure's ability to hold heat. So I'm going to start with those 3 tasks, and if I complete those 3 tasks, there's never a shortage of things to add to that list up here. I can always add more before I get out of here. Alright guys, just to recap from the last time I was up in this loft, my first coat of oil that got put down on these floorboards was a thinned out mix. That allowed the oil to penetrate these floorboards. My second coat that I'm about to apply right now is a more concentrated mix, and that's going to give these floorboards their durability. I'm going to start off with a quick vacuum, and then I'm going to apply that second coat.
Alright guys, the second coat has been applied. It's starting to dry, looking really good. I'm happy on how this thing's turning out. While I was applying this coat, I started thinking ahead to my next task, the lumber mill. And I think I've come up with an idea on how to protect that thing for the winter. So let's head outside and start working on that. Alright, here she is. Time to get it ready for the winter. After being out here several winters, I know that the snow piles up higher in this gully than it does over here on this side of the hill. So my first task of the day is to get this sawmill head down to this side of the track, and this is where it's gonna live for the winter, on this side. Then what I'm thinking is I'm gonna try this for the first time, take all these scrap pieces you see here in this pile and build some sort of makeshift structure around the mill head, thinking like log cabin style, and throw a tarp on that and see how that does. So one thing that I want to do that I haven't done before to all my small engines is try some fuel stabilizer, experiment with it a little bit. I haven't had problems in the past restarting engines that have sat a while up here because I use strict non-ethanol fuel up here. And it seems like non-ethanol fuel stays fresh a lot longer than ethanol blended fuels. But I still want to play around with this stuff and just see what kind of results I get next spring putting this stuff in all my small engines. So it says run engine now for 5 minutes after adding the product to treat entire fuel system. So I'm gonna start this engine up and let it run for about 5 minutes. Alright, just ran this engine for about 5 minutes with fuel stabilizer added to the system. Mechanically, as far as the engine goes, this is how I'm going to leave it for the winter. I'm going to put my first layer of protection over this mill right now. Okay, I got 2 tarps for my first layer of protection on this mill head. Now I'm going to attempt to build the best idea I can come up with for a structure to protect this thing over the winter. I gotta say, not bad, huh? Man, that structure almost looks as good as the big one, huh? Throw a stove in this thing, some insulation, and maybe live in this thing, huh? Alright, so basic concept, log cabin style. You trade off the corners, long pieces and short pieces, do them intermittently, and you build this structure up. And the idea is as the snow builds up, it's putting all the weight on these corners as opposed to the mill that's inside. I'm gonna give this a shot, see how it does for the winter, And you know, if it does a good job of protecting this mill, I'll probably continue something like this in the future. I'm gonna throw a tarp on this thing and call it good. Wish it luck. You know, I'm pretty confident in this. I think it's gonna do pretty well protecting this lumber mill head. I mean, at any rate, it's gonna be a lot better than what this mill head has gone through in past winters. Just a couple tarps left on it, and that was pretty much it. I think with this structure built around it, I think I'm gonna have a lot better success at protecting this thing this winter. So I'm pretty happy with this. See you next spring. All right, guys, with the lumber mill looking good, ready to go for the winter, and the sun about to go down, that's gonna be it for me today. I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, guys, and what a stunner it is. Last night was a cloudless night. The moon and stars were out, lit up this whole valley beautifully. I think that cloudless trend's gonna continue today. Good day to get some more work done. Yesterday we left off getting a second coat of oil on loft number 2 and protecting the lumber mill. 2 goals accomplished. Today I think I'm going to start off my day with a warm-up hike out to the trailhead to grab some gasoline to stockpile for the winter. All right, I'm about halfway through my 1-mile hike back to the trailhead, and while I'm in the middle of this trail, now is a good time to answer the question I get asked a lot: isn't it possible to bring in supplies on a snowmobile? And the answer is yes and no. I have done it before. The front door got dragged in piece by piece behind a snowmobile, but in order for that to happen, it took a crew of 4 guys 3 days to hand dig a flat surface from the start of the trail to the property. And the reason for that is snowmobiles tend to gravitate downhill. And with the trail being no elevation gain or loss across this side hill, any drop in elevation with the snowmobile would be a nightmare, especially with weight on it. You get into this mess of trees down here, and any elevation loss you have to make up at some point trying to go back uphill. So yes, things can be brought in by a snowmobile, but it's extremely labor intensive getting the flat surface in order for the snowmobile to run properly. The other issue with that is after all that work is done, it is completely erased by the next snowstorm. After we dug in that trail last year, bringing in the door, the next snowstorm I came back out here, and the road that we hand dug in was completely filled in. No remnants of it left at all. So the other answer to that question is no. It's not possible without some work being done first. And after being out here for several years, what I find is just the easiest thing to do is just throw some weight on my back and start hiking. It's great exercise. I'm out here in nature. It's peaceful, quiet. I can actually clear my head and enter into a meditative state sometimes. The weight disappears from my back, and I can get some good thinking done, some good strategizing on what to do next, my next moves on the property and the build. right, 5 gallons of gasoline loaded up on my back. 1 mile hike back to the property. All right, 5 gallons of gasoline hiked in. Strategically important because as the snow builds up throughout the winter, it's gonna get ever increasingly hard to carry heavy things in. So good thing to get it in now. Be used all winter long to run generators, that sort of stuff. So that's done. Morning warm up is finished. On to the next task. All right guys, next task, foaming all the windows. Foaming the gaps between the wood framing and the window framing. I got both lofts done last night, loft number 1 and loft number 2 done in the dark via headlamp. I didn't film it because I didn't think it would show up too well on film, but those 2 are done, 6 windows down. I'm gonna go for this middle section next, another 3, then I'm gonna do the kitchen, and then I'm gonna do the bedroom. All right, with the windows being foamed and looking good, that's really gonna add to the structure's ability to hold heat. The sun's about to set and disappear, so it's about time for me to get out of here. I'm gonna film some of my journey exiting, and I'll say my goodbyes when I hit pavement. But for now, I gotta say goodbye to the caretakers, Wolfie, Frank, love you boys. You know the drill. Keep the place looking good, and I'll see you guys in about a month. It was suggested that we should add a howl to our exit tradition, and I thought that was a pretty good idea. 3, 2, 1, and pavement. Alright guys, made it out safe. Just to recap from what I said in the beginning of the episode, it's time for me to head back to my full-time job where I make most of my money for the year, allowing me to take my summers off and build this place. I plan on being back up here in a month or so to film and edit some winter episodes. I have a feeling they're going to be pretty entertaining, so if you enjoyed what you saw here today and want to see some cool winter episodes, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. I want to end here by saying it's been really fun filming and editing these episodes all summer long, and I would like to express my sincere thank you to all of you who have been watching them and interacting with your questions and comments. I'm going to end this episode with some of my favorite clips from this summer. I'm DC. I'm DC.
I'm DC.
I'm DC. I'm DC. I'm DC. Hoping to see you next time. Hoping to see you next time here at Wolf Lodge. Here at Wolf Lodge. Here at Wolf Lodge. Here at Wolf Lodge.